The cameras are ready. The microphones are ready. Let's get ready for Wi-Fi!
Today's guest is very important to me, and we'll find out why as we carry on in our conversation. Mr. Stephen Vullo, King's Counsel now.
Counsel now.
You've been involved in some of the highest profile cases of like our lifetime.
No comment.
Yeah, no comment. Murder.
Well done, Dan.
Murder.
That's my input. That's my input for the episode.
At least somebody's listened to my advice.
Murder, rape, armed robbery, gangland killings. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. The sort of type of things you have to deal with week in, week out. And we are here just to have a chat about what makes you tick. Why are you so renowned in your field? And what's driving you to be so successful? Steve, nice to have you.
Okay, nice. Nice to be here. As soon as I hear you say renowned in my field, I can hear all the other barristers at the criminal bar going, like, renowned?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's how I see you. Maybe I'm biased, but...
Yeah, maybe a little.
We do what we normally do. We start at the beginning, and we just want to sort of know a little bit about like the picture of what sort of where you come from, like what. And one of my first questions is there a kind of stereotypical avenue that someone in your position would come from?
There probably is. I'm not stereotypical, but there probably is. I went to a comprehensive school in the 80s in London. I left having done sort of A-levels, not done very well in my A-levels. Wasn't a great school, did the best that I could. Then I did lots of different jobs. I worked as a chef, door-to-door salesman, lots of different things. I did shows in shopping centres selling pictures. Then I had a little framing shop in West Hampstead and stuff like that. Then got to my mid-20s and just felt I could do something more, but didn't really know what. And I don't know why in particular, but I just told everyone I was going to go and train to be a barrister. And I went to a polytechnic to get a law degree, which is technically not training to be a barrister. It's just going to a fairly rubbishy polytechnic to get a degree. Did that. Then managed to get into bar school, then managed to get a pupillage, maybe talk a little bit more about that later because it wasn't necessarily a very easy path. And then started to practice as a barrister. I suspect most people came from a middle-class background, I suspect, at the bar. Well, no, don't suspect, I know, because obviously I've been around it for quite a long time. And certainly when I began, it might be slightly better now, but when I started, when I started, I always used to say, go home and talk to my mum and dad and tell them something happened in court. I always call it the look. And my voice, I don't think I've got a particularly Cockney accent, but I'm obviously not posh, and it's quite obvious I'm not posh.
In comparison to me and Darren, maybe. Our voices.
Compared to you two.
Couple of chimney sweeps.
Yeah, Darren's really Darren's mortally offended, aren't you, Darren?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, dear boy. But I used to call it the look. I'd go into court, I'd be in my wig and my gown, I'd probably look like a barrister, turning up. And then the first thing I would say, I'd get the judge just look up, as if that's a bit weird. And
really?
Yeah, it used to be the look, and I used to call it the look.
And you're 100% sure that wasn't any sort of insecurity in you that was like looking for that.
It was an insecurity, and I was looking for it.
Not picking me up. Hello. You got me? You got me, Tom? Yeah. Okay. Hello. Hello.
Be the Darren
One,
and
two,
Steve show the way it should have
1,
always
2,
been.
3.
Yeah. We'll take it over now.
Cut his wire.
1, 2. Yeah.
I've sabotaged it.
Yeah.
1,
just
2,
called
3.
you.
1, 2, 3. You got me. You got me, Ludwig.
Hello, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Hello. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Hello. 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah. Fucking forgot where we were now.
You're asking me about
But
was it an
I'll jump in
insecurity?
anyway. So, you know, when you first said, right, I'm going to get into law?
To be a barrister.
To be a barrister.
Yeah, that's. I don't know why.
You don't know why?
I don't know why I said that's what I was going to do. I think part of it was I felt a little bit like a loser in my mid-20s. I hadn't done anything. I'm sort of scragging about, trying to get some money together, door knocking, working in kitchens, stuff like that. And I think in my mid-20s, I didn't want to tell people, "Oh, I'm going to go back to school." Essentially, I thought it sounded cooler to say I'm going to train to be a barrister.
So there was no real passion for it.
No. It was something I think I had thought of many years before. I did a drama O level, and in that I wrote a play that we performed, and it was about a court scene and a barrister. So I was actually the defendant in that case, unsurprisingly. But
Have you got any accent?
it obviously had a little bit of a throwback. It must have been something in there somewhere, because then I did work experience, and I did work experience for a week at school. It was a thing, they started it in the 80s. Work experience wasn't a thing, but it was called the Trident Programme, and most of my mates went to work in like butchers' shops and stuff like that, but I chose a solicitor's firm in Harlesden, and ended up, because a lady was on maternity leave, she got unwell, I went to the Old Bailey to take notes behind a barrister in a robbery case, and I remember thinking that was very cool. So I think probably from those tiny nuggets of knowledge, I thought I'm going to say I'm training to be a barrister. It just gave me the right.
Was there
to
any
do it.
sort of like from your parents, like early doors? Was there any indication that someone that was in your position now, like a successful position, like from your parents?
No,
like a lawyer is a job that's sort of out of reach.
Yeah, I think it would have been out. It would have been considered to be out of reach. My dad was he died recently, just after Christmas, but he was a Sicilian peasant farmer. Literally, they used to sort of till the land, grow their food, and eat the food that they had. So he came over to this country sort of many years ago when he was about 20. He would have been 90 in July. Worked as a chef, which is where I got sort of the cooking from, and I worked with him as a kid and in other restaurants as well. But so he was a peasant farmer. My mum was a proper Cockney. She had an interesting sort of childhood, which probably impacts mine. So we'll probably talk about that at some stage. But she went to grammar school, but left after doing O levels, because obviously nobody had the money to do anything else. So no, nobody in the family would have envisaged, I think, going on to sort of do what I did. And I know my dad's reaction was always one of just sort of chuffed amazement at it. He'd often ask me in quite a tacky way, I suppose, but I'd get a case, it'd be in the newspapers. My dad's first question to me is, "How much do they pay?" And that was it. Was just, it's not the money, but it was just And I'd tell him, and he'd be totally chuffed. He'd be like,
Did you understand the work that would be required and the time? So when you did is it 5 years?
Well,
am I right?
3 years to get a law degree, a year at bar school, a year at pupillage. So 5 years before you're sort of fully.
And was you aware of that?
No, I went in with total ignorance. I went in with total ignorance as how hard it was going to be, and really how short the odds were. But it was a tightrope through, and I talk about this a lot with other people. I've given talks at universities, people from sort of diverse backgrounds going to the bar. I think it probably is a little bit better now, but I could so easily have not been able to do it.
I think that's where I was going with it, because straight away you're displaying your desire, your will to win. You didn't give up there. I'm always relating things back to boxing.
Yeah.
That never give up kind of attitude. I guess when you look back now, you must be proud of yourself, because it was against all odds, if you like, that you would come through. And if you look at where you are now, fast track, you're very, very successful, renowned out there.
Do you know what the interesting about it, without sort of blowing my own trumpet, I was obviously capable of doing the job. So I was always capable of doing the job, but I had no qualifications that on a piece of paper would look any good. I didn't sound right. I had no experience, no sort of cultural background in it at all. So I ticked none of the boxes. And yet I obviously was totally capable of doing the job and doing it well. So that's why when I speak to lots of sort of young kids, they come and do work experience with me. I have lots of people. Like last week, I had a girl from Birmingham who doesn't know anybody in the legal profession, but through a friend of a friend of a friend, then said, could you do work experience with me? And I say yes to all people to do work experience, and I can understand how they feel really on the outside of it. But I went to bar. I got my degree. I applied to go to bar school. At the time, there was only about 800 places a year to do bar school, and this is absolutely true. I'm not being modest at all. I've interviewed people for years and years for pupillage afterwards, so I know exactly what an interview scenario looks like, advocacy exercises, all of that. I turned up to do an advocacy exercise at the bar school. That's one of the things you had to do to get in, and an interview. I was always terrible at interviews. I just couldn't do an interview to save my life. I was awful at them. Which sounds weird now, probably, but I was just awful in interview. And I'd never done any advocacy. So I'd practiced with an upturned washing basket with my mum, actually, saying, I've got to do a 3-minute talk. I didn't know how long 3 minutes would be. Turn up to bar school, and the type of thing that happened all the time, certainly in the beginning, I was sitting with loads of people waiting to go in, and there's this guy talking. He's from Cambridge University, and he was asking me how many practice sessions I'd done with my tutor to sort of go in. It's like, didn't have a tutor, and had no practice sessions other than the upturned basket with my mum sort of a couple of days beforehand. I don't actually understand what happened in the interview, because the interview was terrible. And I'm not being falsely modest about it. That's objectively
Really?
Looking back. I was just awful. And the advocacy was awful too. So all I can think, if there must have been someone on that panel that had a little bit of genius about them, because I obviously had the ability to do it. It wasn't the lack of ability, but I was totally unable to show that ability. And I'm, genuinely looking back, I was totally fucking useless in that interview. But somebody must have just seen something, or else there's a bloke called sort of Stephen Vullo that was brilliant in his interview, and he didn't get taken on, and it was a typo. I totally he's on some podcast somewhere now working in McDonald's. So I totally nailed that interview, and I didn't get it. But so I got a place at bar school. I applied for 68 places because then you have to get pupillage. So there was 800 odd places at bar school. Then there's about 400 pupillages, so it's a funnel that keeps going down and down. I was going to bar school and chefing at the same time, because I needed had to pay to go to bar school, and I needed to pay. So there were large periods of bar school where I wasn't attending. I was working. Everyone in my tutor group, well, almost all of them were sort of Oxford, Cambridge, good universities, bit younger. There was one German guy that was older. He was an academic that qualified in so many things. He's sort of a doctor and was just qualifying as a barrister just to add something else to his CV. So it was an interesting guy. But they were all getting pupillage through that year, and I hadn't got one. And my sister-in-law at the time was doing outdoor clerking, which is like sitting taking notes behind a barrister. And she said, I'll speak to this guy, Jarvid, who I'm doing a case with at the moment, and I'll see if he'll give you what's called a mini pupillage, which is basically work experience. And so I said, well, that would be great if you could do that. To cut a long story short, he became my pupil master in the end. He died, sadly, but very young, but he was fantastic teacher, and a massive sort of influence on me. But I made 68 applications. I was getting absolutely nowhere. And I did a mini pupillage with Javid. I then did my dissertation on the case. I followed him at the Old Bailey. I went to interview him as part of my dissertation. What I didn't know is that he sort of liked me and thought I was a good prospect. Told me to apply to his chambers, and I didn't, because I thought it would be a bit kind of uncomfortable to use the connection. Like, what a moron. But it's something I found. Like, I've just had one of my best friends, who I've known since I was about 4. I lost contact with him for about 20 years, and I've just got back in contact with him. I'm seeing a lot of him. His daughter wanted work experience and was nervous to ask me. So I totally get that. I think it's a really working class thing, not wanting to pull strings. Middle class people do it all the time. That's how they work. It's like, you know someone.
Use your network.
Yeah, a middle class mum wouldn't have any. Well, I know, I know for a fact. Like, middle class people do not have any problem at all ringing me up saying, "Yeah, Tiger, my son, or Lilybell, my daughter, wants to do some work experience. How about next week?" They've got no problem with that. Yeah. Whereas,
which is fair enough as well, isn't it? Really,
yeah,
you know,
of course.
You're connected.
Yeah, you know, if Ray, when he's older,
it's the village you live in, isn't it?
But a classic scenario. But if when Ray's older, he wants a bit of work experience. You probably haven't done this now. You'll just ask me. But there'll be a little bit in you thinking, "Am I taking a liberty asking Steve to?"
I don't want to be a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Why do we?
Is Ray going to turn up?
Yeah. So I did. Yeah. But I didn't apply. Didn't get anything, and then just chucked in a Hail Mary last minute beyond the point where I should have applied. Because it was the last place I had. And again, knowing what I know now, when I got into that chambers, it was totally disorganised. Nobody knew what they were doing. My letter came in about 6 months after the closing date. I rang up and said, well, Javid had told me to apply. This guy called Jeff Lamb, I spoke to, said, okay, let me speak to him. He's obviously gone to Javid. I was, I like that guy, interview him. So all a total mess. I go in. I'm absolutely panicking about this interview. This is the last chance. There's nothing else for me out there. Turn up and Jeff Lamb said to me, I've got to shoot off because I'm going to the football tonight. And I said, all right. I said, so am I actually? And he said, not Chelsea, West Ham. And I said, yeah. He said, you Chelsea or West Ham? And I said, Chelsea. He said, West Ham. I thought, well, that's a fucking good start. I've only got one thing in common with him, and now I'm going to alienate him. And we talked about football. And what I now know is that Javid had said, I really like the guy. Like, that's the guy I want to be my pupil. Right. And so I got pupillage, but that was it. Yeah. That was it. There was nothing else for me. So my sister-in-law, talking to this guy, what I didn't know, Javid was incredibly clever, incredibly well-spoken. I didn't find out until the day of his funeral, which is absolutely typical of how modest he was, that he was top of his year at bar school. Right. A bit like a vegan. Like most people that were top of their year at bar school will tell you within 10 seconds of you meeting them. Yeah. Javid never vegan. Javid never mentioned it. Yeah. Sorry, probably going to alienate all your vegan viewers. But,
that's brilliant.
But Javid never mentioned that he was top of his year at bar school. We're talking, it'd be like, I don't know, it'd be like meeting a unified world champion and him just not mentioning in a discussion about boxing over a period of, I knew him for sort of 10 years.
Blimey.
By the way, Steve, I was the unified champion back in the day. It's like,
what a legend.
Really? Yeah. Like you didn't think to mention that? So I got pupillage. It was the worst chambers probably in the country, but I had Javid, who was probably the best pupil master.
What a sort of alignment somehow that happened, What a stroke of luck.
You'd equate it to him being my coach, he was my Gus D'Amato, whatever.
Just quickly, Steve. So we're talking a lot about what you do, and you're using a language that was alien to me before I met you. can you explain exactly what it is you do? Because, you know, in your words, because we talk about it, you're a criminal barrister, but
in the simplest terms, I said I defend people accused of crimes, as you say, over the years I've represented sort of people accused of terrorism, murder, violence, sexual offences, the full gambit. Lots of them you'd have sort of read about in the newspapers. So that type of case.
So from what I understand, in essence, you represent people accused of the most serious crimes. Yeah. So in society, they're seen as the worst people. Yeah. You know, and then you defend them.
Yeah. And there'll often be. We've spoken about this obviously before because I've known you for a long time, but a part of it will be everybody will think they did it. The newspapers think they did it. All of my mates will say to me, "You're representing that person. Come on, you know they must have done it." And for some reason, I enjoy being in that position, which I suspect we'll talk about. But
do you have a view on what why you're inspired to be in that position?
I think it's complex, obviously. And there are a few factors to it. Unsurprisingly, I think part of it goes back to childhood, and a few years ago, like in therapy, I had to sort of think to myself, why have I sort of been driven to do this as well? Because it like you said, Darren, it's kind of I decided to do it and then did it. And I've told you, obviously it was a tightrope to get there, but I still did it and I still carried on going. And I did get there in the end. So there must have been something.
It's like an obsession to be able to achieve that. It becomes an obsession.
Well, when I started working and actually doing my own cases, that I think really revealed the obsession. The beginning part was sort of, it's difficult to explain, but it was almost like ignorance and just, if you put it into sort of boxing parlance, I just had my head down and I was swinging and swinging. So I wasn't doing it well, but I was swinging and swinging and swinging. And then finally I met Jarvid, who probably said, let's get a stance and sort of do
But that drive, it's like, if you want to put it in boxing terms, you stick him in a ring and they keep getting knocked down and they just keep swinging and swinging. Like, why are they so driven? Like, what is going on for that boxer? He just keeps getting battered.
Well, there's a few
and
things.
He just keeps coming back.
I didn't have another option. I sort of had lost my way in my early 20s. Well, the way I viewed it is like, if I don't do this, I'm going to be a 30-year-old loser, having been a 20-year-old loser 10 years ago. It's like, I've got to do this. So I've told everyone I'm training to be a barrister. Like when I started my degree at the City of London Poly, like not many people start their barrister's career at City of London Poly, but that's what I was saying to people. That's what I'm going to do. And but in terms of defending, I think just an innate part of me feels as if I'm criticised, or sometimes unfairly criticised, I just think I want to be able to defend myself. And maybe in sort of my life, I don't defend myself very well. I defend other people much better. And there's clearly something going on.
Can you switch sides?
Barristers can prosecute, defend, or
but so you can both. All under your umbrella if you choose to.
I could have prosecuted. I could have done both.
But can you do both now?
I could. I suspect after sort of 27 years of being the opponent to the Crown Prosecution Service, I don't think they. I say that, but. The last murder case I did at the Old Bailey, the police officers asked me, would I prosecute a case they had coming up? But it wasn't. Yeah, and I was defending in that case.
And is it a totally different skill set? Like,
yes. Not totally different, but it is different. If you defend someone, then you have to be 100% doing everything you can to make every sort of proper argument on their behalf. If you're prosecuting someone, a good prosecutor will sort of be firm but fair. Like Jarvid, interestingly, did both. He prosecuted and
Oh, did he?
defended,
Yeah.
And he was a very good prosecutor because he was exactly what he taught me you should be, being a prosecutor, be firm but fair. I only ever prosecuted one case in my life, and I was the type of prosecutor that I hate. I wanted to win it. I was prosecuting like I defend. I was like all out trying to win. And that's not the way to prosecute. And I could even hear it in myself. I was like the arsehole prosecutor that I used to hate. I hate being against. It's like, that's me. So I prosecuted one case, and then I never did prosecution.
So I don't understand the process here, because I'm a law-abiding citizen.
I've had a bit of experience.
We'll get on to that.
Vinyl for listen. Yeah.
But so how does it, what is the process? So how does a case get presented to you?
Okay.
And then, you tell me.
On that, do you select?
Yeah. Do you have to pick?
Whether you want them or not?
Well, there's different answers to that at different stages of my career. So when I started off, the legal world knew nothing about me. So there were solicitors out there. So a barrister traditionally will be given instructions by a solicitor. So if you get into trouble, you'll go to a solicitor. You'll say I'm in trouble, and the solicitor will say, yeah, you're in quite a bit of trouble, so we'll need a barrister in your case, and I'm going to suggest Mr. A or Miss B to do your case. And so we would be instructed by solicitors rather than you directly. So if you got into trouble down, you go to a solicitor would recommend a barrister. And that's the way I would get my work. When I was first on my feet, so 3 years at university, a year at bar school, which is like basically a postgrad, and then pupillage split into two portions of 6 months and called first six, second six, interestingly. So the first six, you would follow your pupil master around, just everything he or she would be doing. You'd follow them, you go to court with them every day, you take their notes, you do the preparation, you do schedules, you do all of that, and then they teach you how to do the job. In the second six, you're still a pupil, but you're released to go and do some cases on your own, small cases obviously, but your pupil master still has to keep an eye on you to make sure you're doing it okay. In actual fact, you practice on their indemnity insurance for those 6 months. And then at the end of the 12 months, you then have to apply for tenancy in chambers, because having finished the 12 months doesn't necessarily mean you get taken on. Then you become a tenant in chambers. The best way to describe chambers is basically like a cab office where you work. The clerks receive phone calls. To begin with, I was in a fairly sort of rubbishy chamber. Well, it was a really rubbish chambers. And so I was on my feet on the first day into my first 6 months. 4 days I sat next to my clerk when the phone ringing, with him saying to a solicitor saying, oh, so you've had someone arrested for shoplifting and barking. I do have, Mr. Vullo's available.
Yeah.
Okay, you'll ring me back, and then put down the phone, then get another phone call back saying, oh, right, okay, you're dealing with it yourselves. Okay, thanks. And so I didn't get to go out. So it was about 4 days before I got my first
And this
case.
would have all been legal aid?
All legal aid, yeah. So, if you get...
And to explain what that is?
If you get arrested, you're entitled in this country to free representation. And so I started off, my first 2 cases were thefts from shops, shoplifting. Yeah. And so I went to do the first one, and he pleaded guilty, and it was in the magistrate's court, and I did mitigation for him. God knows what I said, just a total haze. Can't remember. I do remember the second day, because he also stole, and he'd just come out of prison, and he stole some ham from Sainsbury's, having just come out from prison. And there is a difference between sort of wisdom and knowledge, and I had knowledge but no wisdom. I think a good example of that is like, I think knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is not putting it in the fruit salad. There's a difference. And so this guy just come out of prison. He got lots of things on his records, lots of thefts on his record. And so the book said he's going to get some time because he's a repeat offender. He's just come out of prison. He's just, this person's not not abiding by court orders. He's stolen another £7 worth of ham. You know, he's going down. So I went, his dad was there, and I very genuinely and honestly said, sorry, whatever your name is, you know, it's prison for you. And what I now know is there's no way they're going to send him to prison for a few pounds worth of ham. So I got them convinced that he's going in for like 3 or 4 months. Come out, he got a fine. And the dad and the sons will think I'm brilliant. So you saved me from going to prison. And I truly believed I had as well, at least for like a good few months, until I realised, obviously, that wasn't that wasn't the way it worked. But the reason I remember him is I stood up and I called him the same name as the guy from yesterday.
Oh, really?
So I'd only had 2 clients. And I was in such a panic. I'd learnt the guy's name from yesterday. And I started using the name, and this magistrate said to me, does your client have an alias? I was like, no. Like, well, why are you calling him Bob? I was like, that was my client yesterday. But anyway, I got a little bit better after that.
So, sorry, you may have said this, but who are you working for at this time?
So
who's paying you?
The government.
The government.
The government. Right. So the government would pay me on legal aid. And when I started doing the job, it was in 1996. For me, certainly, maybe not for maybe my contemporaries, but for me, I thought we earned fabulous money, you know, doing what we were doing. And my whole career was going to be, I envisaged at that stage, on legal aid, representing people. They kept cutting legal aid to the point where I took Silk in 2014, so it became a QC at the time, KC now, the Queen has died and we have a king. And now I only do private work. So people will come to me, usually sort of high net worth individuals and stuff like that, and they will pay me privately to represent them.
So becoming a Silk or KC, is that kind of, are you then like a title holder in boxing terms?
Yeah,
like,
I suppose so.
Yeah, you're seen as like, right, okay, you're the best in your division.
Yes,
kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a sort of meant to be a badge of quality or a recognition of seniority, not just in seniority but quality. It's meant to be. Unfortunately, there's still plenty of Silks that aren't that great, but so it is meant to be that way.
So once you're a Silk, can you not do legal aid anymore?
No, you can do legal aid. In actual fact, your rate. Certainly when I did legal aid, I don't know now, but you used to be paid double what a junior barrister would get. So you get double, but the problem for lots of people going from being a junior barrister, and a junior barrister is just everybody that is not a King's Counsel, so they can be very senior. Some people
but it's still called a junior barrister.
Some people are junior barristers that have been doing it longer than me if they haven't taken Silk.
Right.
So everyone's a junior barrister other than Silks, and so that's sort of the way it works.
The way you word it, the way you they haven't taken Silk. It sort of sounds like it's an option, but it's not, is it? You get chosen.
Well, you apply. They look back at the last 2 years of cases you've done. They speak to judges and your opponents and people you've co-defended with, take references, and then they interview you. Nightmare still, sort of. I did my first application, absolutely useless in interview again, and I applied a second time.
Because you're being judged.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah. If I'm sure if I went to get Silk for Darren, I'd probably
smash
get it. I probably would.
Yeah.
Like, but as soon as I'm trying to sort of talk for myself,
defend yourself.
Yeah, it just a terrible interview, and then I went and got. Which I didn't think I'd ever need, but I got this coach to teach me how to do the interview in that scenario, and he just gave me some things to say, and I just went in there. The second time round, totally not myself. First time, probably not really myself, but
for different reasons.
For different reasons. This time, a little bit like a trained automaton, and obviously got it.
Yeah, and what does it actually mean? Like taking Silk? Why is it called that? Do you know?
Because your gown is your gown is
so
silk.
you get a different gown.
Yeah, it's a silk gown.
Right.
So you look different. So you'll be able to tell a Silk from a junior by the way that they dress. So I wear what's called a bum freezer,
Right.
which is a short jacket there for your bums freezing,
yeah.
as opposed to it's like a tailcoat but
Right.
without the tails, and they call it a bum freezer. And then I've got a gown that cuts off at the arms, much higher up, and it's silk.
Right.
And it looks
So
different.
that's your title belt in a way.
Yeah.
You wear that.
Yeah, so you
and it's
walk.
sort of-
You walk.
this
So
means
you'd be able to tell.
Right.
You'd be able to tell
Yeah,
whether
yeah.
somebody's a silk or a junior just from the way that they dress,
Mm.
and it did make a difference. I'd go to court, and it did make a difference just having the title. I suppose.
Of course, it's the same as
you
walking
go
into the
somewhere,
ring.
Yeah. You're
the champion.
Doesn't mean
You can't be
you're
beaten.
good. Doesn't mean you can't be beaten. Doesn't
No.
even mean necessarily you're that good.
Yeah.
But you still got it.
Yeah, as we know, Dal, there's plenty of people out there with belts that probably haven't earned them properly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They've just
Yeah.
got an opportunity in the right way, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not all world champions are at the same level. And the same as all people that didn't win a world title are not all at the same level.
Yeah.
It's like that.
yeah.
So you know, so you're going down the legal aid road. Are you on a salary, or do you get paid every
No, you
time?
You get paid per case.
Per case. So you want to be busy. You want to be doing the cases.
And I loved it.
Yeah.
I worked for about 7 years without holiday. When I met my wife, she said, "Oh, like, what do you do, sort of holiday wise and stuff?" And it's like nothing.
Wow, really?
But that wasn't. It was partly financial, but I felt like I was running behind, and I wanted to catch up, and I wanted to be good. And I just loved
were
it.
you, or was that your perception of yourself?
Yes and no. I was 5 or 6 years chronologically behind people that had done it all the way through. I since have caught up quite comfortably, but there was one of the bizarre things about being a barrister. The other qualification you have to do, or had to do, certainly when I did it, which you had to eat a certain amount of dinners in your inn, and I think it was 18 dinners I had to eat, formal dinners in Middle Temple, and it was part of the qualification. If you didn't eat your dinners, you couldn't sort of
Why?
It's just an historical thing. It used to be 26 dinners before.
Is that like because
So
you've earned
you-
your experience?
Well, I
you've
think
been
it was
around
so
long
that
enough?
you would sit with other barristers,
Right.
and the first time I turned up at Middle Temple and feeling very, very out of place. I always felt a little bit out of place, but this is kind of really
Yeah.
quite intensely out of place. And this guy came up to me and said, "Are you in a mess?" And I knew what he meant. He meant, because they sit you in messes like the military sort of tables are for. I knew what he meant, and I said, "Well, yeah, I'm in a mess. I've got no idea like where to sit." I didn't have a group of people to go with. Like most people were sitting in their groups.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
So turning up, wasn't with anyone, really felt quite uncomfortable. And he said, "Well, it's mixed dining night tonight, so off you come with me." He starts walking up the middle of Middle Temple, which is a really old. It's where the Knights Templars used to be. So
Right.
the like, for example, the first recorded performance of Twelfth Night was in Middle Temple,
Right.
hundreds of years ago.
I don't know what that is.
Shakespeare's play.
Right.
So the first time it was ever performed
Right.
was in recorded as being
Right.
performed was in Middle Temple.
So it's a proper historical.
Yeah, so it's
like,
a really historical
intimidating
building.
place.
It's got
Yeah.
all coats of armour on the walls and long benches which Henry VIII donated, chopped down from an oak tree in his forest, and it's got loads of history. So it's
Yeah.
a very interesting place. And he's walking me up to the head table, and I'm like, whoa. Like, not only am I'm a student, I'm a real nobody student. Like, where are you going? He said, "Well, it's mixed dining night tonight. We need a student to sit next to Master Sherard, like the head of Middle Temple." I was like, "That ain't going to be me." And he said, "Yeah, it is." And like took me up
Really?
there and sat me the one chair next to the head guy. I'm sitting, and they sent this little white booklet around telling you how to eat at dinner.
What?
Which way to pass the salt, who
Oh,
served.
I hate that.
Yeah.
Oh.
I hadn't bothered reading it because I think, I don't care, I'm not going to learn all
How to
this.
eat.
And then I'm sitting there thinking, why didn't I read it? I'm now like sitting on this middle. Anyway, cut a long story short, Master Sherard was just an amazing man and helped me a lot in my career.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just kept in contact with me. I sat next to him, and he said something to me which I never forgotten. I've passed it on to lots of other people. I said, look, I was 27, maybe 27, 28 at the time. I said, I feel like I'm sort of behind. And he said, in my experience, somebody coming with some life experience to the bar, if you're 5 years behind, in 10 years' time, you'll be at the same level. And he was absolutely right.
Bang on.
He was absolutely right. And it gave me huge confidence, him telling me that. He was such a wise... He'd done everything. He represented the last person to be executed in this country.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Can you imagine, if I mess up during the day, somebody might get 30 years in prison or 40 years if they're a terrorist. But, to have somebody executed...
hanging.
Yeah.
Right, so... You've become established. You're the governor. You set up your own. What do you call it? Is it a practice? What do you call it?
Yeah, it's a practice in Chambers. I a few years ago set up my own firm, which is very unusual for barristers.
You call that a law firm?
A law firm, yeah. So it's a bar regulated
12
firm.
tabulae.
12 tabulae, yeah. So, but that's very unusual. Most barristers don't do that.
Why?
Most barristers haven't got much business now. So I've always they're good at law, but
they're comfortable, good bit of stability, not worth taking.
And they're just not entrepreneurs. If you get 3 barristers in a room, you'll get 5 different opinions. Yeah, so it's very difficult to run a firm with barristers. I used to go to Chambers meetings, and what we do is we knock things down. So you'll say, I think it would be a good idea if we get a big telly and reception. Everyone's going to give you the 25 reasons why you shouldn't have a big telly and reception, why a medium-sized one would be best. And then you'll get 30 people say, well, a small one's better than a medium. Yeah. And then you'll get 5 people say, well, maybe a large one was the best option.
So in the end, you go, fuck the TV.
And then what you do then is you usually adjourn for people to have a think about it until the next meeting, and it all starts,
everything's discussion.
They're not entrepreneurs. It's if you want to be an entrepreneur,
but I suppose that's part. Like one of my questions is, what are the ingredients needed, and that's part of it, right?
Well,
you've got to
it was part of it for me.
I don't mean the lack of entrepreneurship. I mean the need to sort of unpick everything.
To when somebody says, I might get a case where the prosecution say that a car was blue, and I need it to be red. So my whole job for that month will be working out how I can convince a jury that the car was in fact red and it was not blue.
And you're going against a policeman.
You might have 50 people saying it was red.
Yeah,
and there might be.
In fact, one of what I was reading up a little bit, not too much because I know a lot of your cases and your history anyway. But I was reading something last night that I remember you telling me about, and it was one policeman had witnessed a doorman. He'd witnessed a doorman stamping on someone's head. You tell the story because you'll tell it better than me.
Well, I won't name the guy. His nickname was Tarzan. So if he's listening to this, he'll know who he is. He was called Tarzan. He was a doorman. He was huge, absolutely huge. He was about as wide as I was tall. Yeah, not very tall, but he was wide. And
brilliant on a rope swing.
But he had been accused of attempted murder. There had been a fight in the club where he was working, and an off-duty police officer, I still remember it now, because there was things that I remember, statements and what people say and stuff quite well. And he said in his statement, I saw the doorman lift his foot up, bring it down, crush the man's head. I heard it crumbling like a cardboard box. So off-duty policeman saying that. And there was
jury a lot.
Well, there were actually about 12 people that saw this go on. 2 had come to watch the football at Wembley, Barnsley fans in the playoff finals. Then there was a group of lads from Newcastle that had come down to visit a brother-in-law. And all these people saw different things about what this doorman had done. They'd all gone outside afterwards talking about, oh my God, did you see that man? This man nearly died. He had a fractured skull. Tarzan was actually innocent, not just he was found not guilty. He was innocent. He saved the man's life. But the police officer came, so he's off-duty police officer at the time, but he comes in and he gives his evidence. And it was just obvious he was telling the truth. Like,
To
the
you?
way he saw it, he wasn't lying. But he was telling
the policeman.
The policeman was telling the truth. So I planned to sort of cross-examining him on the basis, well, you're an off-duty police officer. You've decided to make yourself the best witness in the world. You've witnessed it all. I was going to have a go at him in that way, but he gave his evidence in such a genuine way that I said to him in front of the jury, it's obvious you're telling the truth, and I can see that. From what you saw, you believe what you're saying, but will you now do me the good service of just answering my questions exactly without any impression? And what had happened, I'm probably not going to show you on the podcast, but you imagine when somebody slams their foot down, their left shoulder will drop, their right one will come up, and then you'll see the top body go down. That's the way you'd see the foot. And I'd gone to the scene, and going to the scene, as Ryan knows, and taking photographs and videos is always a wise thing to do. Where the policeman was sitting, he could not have seen the actual feet. He could have only seen the top part of the body movement. Then he saw the man with a broken skull, essentially bleeding out, being dragged out of the bar. So the vision he's got is a doorman dipping his left shoulder, slamming his right shoulder down. Then he sees a man with a crushed head. And I said to him,
that was behind the wall.
That was behind the wall, and then the man gets dragged from behind the wall. It's only a low wall, gets dragged from behind the wall, and his head's sort of visibly crushed. And so I said to him, you made the assumption that the doorman's foot made contact with his head, but you didn't see that. And he quite fairly said, no, I didn't. Because what Tarzan had said he'd done, these people were attacking this man from behind, and it was in a corridor, and he was so wide he could essentially block off the corridor. So he stepped over the man on the floor and stamped his foot down on the other side to make a
like a bridge over him.
Yeah, to make a bridge over him, to make a wall behind. So the police officer had seen him do exactly that, but his foot had never touched the thing. And each of the witnesses saw a little bit of something. Like one of them said, yeah, he was lifting him up and down, bashing his head off the floor. The man that was injured was about 27 stone. And Tarzan was strong, but what he said is he was trying to get him out of the bar.
Trying to lift him. And,
He couldn't lift him. And he was a dead weight because he's totally unconscious. And he's trying to lift him. And so that person sees a man head crushed, everyone outside saying, oh, did you see the doorman crush that man's head? Police officer, I'm a police officer, don't worry, I saw it. I saw him crush. And so the evidence was overwhelming, absolutely overwhelming. A solicitor called Bambos, who probably will get mentioned later on, rang me up, and I had a conference with Tarzan, and I just believed him, straight away. I just genuinely, just a genuine guy. He said, interestingly, will you please come to see the scene? I want to talk you through it. Again, interesting. He wanted to do that. He talked me through it. And when he talked me through the whole thing, I totally believed what he was saying.
Is this before you've actually taken it on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, then he came to see me, and I said, I'll take it on. And not guilty, obviously, and we're going to have a trial. Bambos rang me and said, Steve, what are you doing? And I did a lot of work with Bambos, and he trusted me for sure. But he said, what's going on? You told him to plead not guilty. I said, yeah, he didn't do it. He said, have you read the police officer's statement, the cardboard box? And I said, yeah, but he didn't do it. And I explained. And Bambos was like, all right then, I'll back you all the way if that's what you say. And again, cutting a long story short, we can talk about these cases. I could talk you way through every single witness and every single point that was made. It took me. But
the reason I brought it up was because you're saying I need the car to be red, and in fact everyone's saying it's blue.
Yeah,
but you got to find a way to prove to them.
He actually was innocent, and one of the things that happened, and I'll finish this story on that. I was addressing the jury, and I'd asked him when he gave evidence, and I called him to give evidence, which is something I don't usually do, but I called him to give evidence, and he said that he thought the man had died. So he's taking him out, he can see air bubbles and blood coming out of his mouth, and he thought he died, but he carried on carrying him to the door. And I said, why did you carry on carrying him if you thought he died? And he said, because I just didn't want them to kick him anymore. And what I said to the jury at the end, and I can hear the emotion. I said, "There's no way that a man that tried to kill somebody in giving evidence in court would think to say, I thought he was dead. But I was bonded with him.
Yeah.
His dead body, I didn't want them to kick his dead body anymore. You couldn't make that, only an innocent man could say that. And a woman in the jury started crying when I said it, and it choked me up a little bit. It's choking me up now.
Yeah, well, it does me a little bit.
And anyway, they came back in about 8 minutes, the jury, and she was the foreman. They found him not guilty. But he was if I hadn't been obsessed, I'm always obsessed with every case.
When you say coming back in 8 minutes, that's like that doesn't happen, does it?
The jury gets sent out. It takes them a couple of minutes to get to their room, sit down. The quickest I've ever had is in like they've literally knocked on the door and come straight back in. Yeah. But 8 minutes is incredibly fast.
So
it's an attempted murder.
Yeah.
So they're sure he didn't do it.
Doubt.
They're sure he didn't do it. And they've come and they have to be unanimous at that stage.
Yeah.
And he very sweetly, it was just before Christmas, he took me out. We went out, and his children were the same age as my two boys at the time. So we had children the same age. He's a little bit younger than me, but he was looking at a long time in prison. And the thing that was tearing him apart was his children. That he would, and my children were the same age, and so. Yeah, when I had children,
a big connection.
Yeah, when I had children, I really started to understand what serving time in prison meant. As a young man, somebody sent me to prison for 5 years. I probably wouldn't have liked it, but I could have done it. It wouldn't have bothered me. I say it wouldn't have bothered me. It would have bothered me, but it wouldn't have been devastating. Now, somebody sent me to prison for 2 weeks.
First thing I would think of.
Yeah, it's the children, and then I've been in situations where people are not going to see
ruining their life in a way.
Anyway, he took me out for Christmas. It was just before Christmas, and he got me totally drunk, put me in a cab, sent me home, and so I got totally drunk with him, which is unusual. And every Christmas since, and Charlie was 2, so 14 years, every Christmas Eve he sends me a text.
It's funny. It's weird not to mention it now because we've spoke about Bambos.
Yeah.
And I do the same with Bambos. Every year I text him at Christmas because I've become very close to you.
You don't text me.
Yeah, but I see you all the time. And just every year I always think Bambos. I always text him. And well,
I can tell you that I'm sure he really appreciates it because I know I do. That Tarzan every year. And then one year, and I always say to people, I know there'll be a year when he stops doing it. And it was about 6 years ago, Christmas Eve. And I don't wait for it to come in. I don't think it, but I got to Christmas Day and I realised, Tarzan didn't text. No problem. It's like, he's done his time. And he texted me on Christmas Day. He obviously forgot Christmas Eve. And then the next year, Christmas Eve after that.
So, Steve, so now you've got your own firm and through your reputation, cases get presented to you.
Yeah.
So you spend time looking for them yourself. Do you turn many away?
No.
So
I don't know. Some I do, but not
so
many.
I just want to get into the conflict, and you mentioned it before, where you said some of your friends might say, "Why are you defending this person?" Going back to that case there, are you looking for something like that in every case? Where so straight away, so even
without judgment, without. When I got those papers, if I hadn't been, for example, personally convinced of his innocence, I'd have done the same job. I'd have looked at it just as hard.
Are you always convinced that they're innocent? Because
no, I'm not convinced of their innocence, but I'm always convinced of my argument.
But yeah,
and that's slightly different because people, of course, are entitled to be found not guilty if the evidence isn't strong enough to prove them beyond a reasonable doubt to prove them guilty. So there's always going to be a grey area in our law, and it's quite right that there's a grey area. You can have a legal system which convicts everybody that did it, But if you have a legal system that convicts everybody that did it, you're going to have to accept that people that didn't do it are going to be convicted, because to draw the line there to capture all of the guilty,
an accusation,
you're going to have to
you're
going to have to capture somebody innocent too.
Yeah.
Our system's set up to try to ensure that the innocent do not get convicted, and if you have a system like that, then you know that some people that did it will be found not guilty. But that's what, we accept that because we don't want innocent people to go in. So look, if a jury's got to be sure, and that's the test, they've got to be sure of someone's guilt. That's a high test. They might think, and I'll say this to juries quite often, quite properly, if you think he is highly likely to have done it, or very possibly did it, it's not enough.
Yeah,
you've got to be sure he did it. So there will be many cases where I am arguing that the evidence is not sufficient. That's different with me having a personal opinion in their innocence. Yeah, there's quite a lot of give.
Do you regret taking any cases afterwards where you think, do you know what, he was nailed on?
Yeah, I was going to ask the same question in a different way. Like, if you've had someone that has been found acquitted, but something just didn't sit right with you. You walked away thinking,
yeah, a few. I can't obviously discuss them.
Yeah,
but there were a few where I think the person was fortunate, and there was one many years ago actually that I did a case I did with Javid. It was a terrible case of sexual offending against children in a children's home. Really, really like horrible stuff. And we ran a legal argument to say that the police had messed up the investigation, therefore the judge shouldn't proceed. And it was in front of a very good judge at the Old Bailey. And he said, and I still remember it now, this is like, it's 1997. I can still picture the judge saying it. Most difficult decision he'd had to make as a judge, and he sat at the Old Bailey, so he'd make lots of difficult decisions. He agreed with us and said, "Yeah, the case can't go ahead," and released the guy. And there was no sense of celebration in that at all. And I remember he came up at the end, him having been released, and he went to shake Javid's hand. And Javid said, "Barristers don't shake hands," which is true traditionally. And then he asked for £10 for a train fare. And again, I just took Javid's lead. Javid said, train fares for friends and family, and just walked off. So
why would he be defended? Like, why would you defend that person?
Because he's entitled to be defended. Everyone's entitled to a defense.
But wouldn't you be thinking in your head, like, see, I guess for me, I'll be ruled too much by my emotions. I'll be thinking this prick.
Yeah. But if you go, but this is the flip side of it, you see. So say Tarzan's case, I just read the papers in Tarzan's case and taken the view that everybody would have taken, perfectly, like, sensibly, looked at it and thought, this is unwinnable. He has to plead guilty. If I'm making the decisions as to which ones I try and which ones I don't, you might as well get rid of the whole system and just make it down to me. Well, it's not down to me. And I don't necessarily know the answers. And so I try my very hardest with every single case. Like I've never taken my foot off the pedal ever.
And even that guy, you don't know for sure. It's just a gut feeling that goes.
More than a gut feeling. I have to say, I was convinced, I think, to the criminal standard that he was guilty, but wasn't what we were arguing.
But the police had messed up the case.
We were arguing an abuse of process, which is like the process has been abused and therefore you cannot try him.
Yeah.
Not that he's not guilty.
Yeah.
And in very unusual and limited circumstances, the judge made the right decision. It's legally the correct decision. If we have a system, the system has to work properly. And again, it means we know some bad people will slip through the net, but we know that because we're making sure
that innocent people don't
get convicted. Like people, like if we lowered the test a little bit, made it, well, do you think the evidence is quite strong Tarzan would have been serving sort of a 16-year sentence.
Yeah, but you know that one where the police
And he saved the guy's life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true,
No,
100%.
but you-
Completely up.
If you bring a set of facts, the problem, the whole point with this is you have to have principles. That's what's lost in politics now. You have to have principles. Are your principles that the criminal justice system should be fair and should be rigorously upheld by all the people in it? We'd all say yes to that. Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, then get instructed to represent the Glasgow bomber. So what do you do then? Say, well, the Glasgow bomber, he did it on telly.
Yeah.
I represented the 21st July bomber too. My personal opinion on terrorism on the streets of London, I think would be fairly, mainstream along the same as everybody else. But principle says that the criminal justice system has to work fairly to protect everybody in it. I can't pick and choose, and principles are only difficult to follow when it's difficult. Like if I said to you, oh guys, I've got an innocent man accused of a crime he didn't commit, I'm going to really do everything I can, make sure the criminal justice system makes him acquitted. You go, of course you would say,
Go on,
brilliant,
Steve.
right, off you go. And then I say, well, I've got this terrible paedophile that's been accused of a crime, and I'm going to make every effort in his case too, because the principle is important that I perform my function to the highest possible level. I can see you get two faces critically thinking, how the fuck do you do that?
Yeah.
Well, no. But
that's principle as opposed to facts.
I think I'm. If you're looking at it,
don't know
thinking,
whether
well,
to swear on this.
the police have messed up, but I know this man is 90% evil. Can't you just swerve that one and just say, do you know what? I don't want to have nothing to do with him.
No, because somebody's got to represent him, and I hate people swerving cases. I've stayed in cases that have been incredibly difficult where you could potentially say, because of the client's behaviour, or you could sort of say, well, I'm professionally embarrassed, for example. He said something or done something that makes it not possible for me to represent him. I often stick in cases like that because I think somebody's got to deal with this person. Like somebody's got to get this person through the system and do it fairly too. So if somebody gets convicted,
does that go back, Steve, to you saying that? I mean, that maybe you felt you wanted to defend yourself better. In some ways, is it connected to that in any way? Well, like everyone deserves defence, and you deserved it too. And like now you're in this job, you've fought so hard to be able to defend people.
But everyone does deserve a defence. That doesn't necessarily mean they deserve to be found not guilty.
No, but I can relate. I can relate to what Darren's saying, and I understand what you're saying because I've spoke to you about it enough. But how do you walk away from that guy, knowing that you said train fares are for friends and family? How do you walk away? And I mean, you're talking about it now. How long ago?
Over 25 years ago.
Yeah. So you're talking about it now,
but it really stands out.
Yeah.
That one really stands out. Most of the time I finish a case, it's gone within 10 minutes. I'm on to the next one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably because the police messed the case up, and you knew, he was. Yeah,
and there was a legal argument. There was a legal argument that was properly made. It was correct, and the case. But if there were 100 cases like that, you have to run the argument 100 times. You can't run it 99 times and choose not to do it once.
And I suppose if you're going to go, Javid, we can both see this, what's on the paper here, but let's ignore that that's there. Well, you're corrupt.
Yeah.
You're corrupt straight away.
Well, no, but that's what I'm saying. Couldn't you just leave that one? Say, hopefully he gets fucked up.
Well, leave it to someone else. Somebody else has got to deal with him.
Yeah, but they may not.
It's corruption, though, isn't it, Dal? It's corruption.
It's moral. It's a moral corruption.
Yeah.
But do you get more moral satisfaction knowing you've done that than the other way? Like letting it just slide by?
I'm obviously more satisfied when somebody who I think didn't do it is found not guilty. Yeah. I recently represented a guy that served 5 years of a 16-year sentence for a crime he didn't commit. We went to appeal, went to a retrial, and he was found not guilty very quickly in the same courts, in front of the same judge with the same prosecutor. I was the only new sort of person there. And of course I walked away from that satisfied. But that's the end. That's the end of it.
I think
the beginning of it is you've got to do everything. You look, if you walk into a ring, if you're not willing to sort of fight as hard as you need to fight, you shouldn't be there.
No, I know. I think a good example of I don't know if you're allowed to mention names or what, but you represented Rolf Harris.
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, that's in the newspapers. People know that.
So you represented Rolf Harris, and he was accused of things that from my view, from what I understand, he was convicted of.
Yeah,
but there was other things that he was things were thrown at him that you then so some people will go, well, he's done that, he's a bad egg, but then you've defended him.
Yeah,
and you've proved without doubt that some of those things that he was accused of just didn't exist.
Yeah.
And so he truly did deserve the defence of those things, even though he'd done other things wrong.
Yeah. So to cut a long story short, he was convicted. I didn't represent him in his first trial. He had 3 trials altogether. So he convicted in the first trial, became basically the a sort of tagline for a joke, really, a punchline for a joke. And I think once you become a punchline for a joke, then that's you set as far as everyone's concerned. Yeah. Then he was accused of more offences, and I represented him in 2 trials. So after he was convicted, represented him in 2 trials, he was found not guilty both times, quite properly and rightly. Yeah. And in that, I also managed to overturn one of the convictions from the first trial, proving conclusively that he hadn't done it. That we went to the Court of Appeal. That's what we were saying. We can prove he did not commit this one. Yeah. We were arguing about all of them, but one of them we used private investigators to investigate it properly, and he didn't do it. But he was convicted of it, and he served his time for it. Yeah. And they've just done a documentary on him. The documentary makers wanted me to be in it. They often do, but all nuance has been lost. And so if I'm saying to you now, the Rolf Harris story is a very interesting story, and it's an interesting story of people coming forward, some of them no doubt genuine, some of them damaged, some of them being quite malicious. It's an interesting story, but nobody's interested in it from a newspaper point of view. They just want to be black and white. I was in the Court of Appeal, and I think it was a reporter from the Daily Star came up to me in a recess. They always come up like you're going to give them a big scoop. I obviously never say anything to them, but she came up to me and said, "Mr. Vullo, this is fascinating. This evidence about the first trial, and he obviously didn't do this one. This is fascinating stuff." And I said, "Well, is it going to make it into the newspaper? She's from the Daily Star or something like that." Yeah. And she said, "Well, I don't know what my editor will say." And I think it's the only time I've ever searched for the Daily Star headline the next day. And it was something like, "Pedo tries to get years off sentence." It was just, she'd heard it all. It's trash, fascinating what had happened. It's too long probably to tell you here. But just give you one example. There was in the first trial, there was a map, and it was said to have occurred in a building. This sort of terrible offence against an 8-year-old girl occurred in a social club, and in the first trial there was another box next to it, but it was unlabelled. So I just want the detail. What's that building? What was that building? Turned out it was a police station at the time, and my private investigator found 2 now very senior police officers who said, "Yeah, we used to work there." And we said, "Did you know that it was suggested that Rolf Harris turned up to this tiny little Portsmouth social event and sang a song?" This was when he was at the height of his fame. So he had just played, I think, in some massive venue in London. And he said he'd never been there. And these 2 senior police officers said, "Yeah, no,
that never happened."
Never happened. But first trial, there was a box. There was another man. I read his statement. He was the only person to say he remembered Rolf Harris being there. And I read his statement, and it was about 12 sentences long. And he said he was on a long leave long leave during the Korean War. And I know my history. The Korean War was the 50s, not the 60s. So I'm reading this. It's already been tried once before. I said to my private investigator, this guy is a fantasist. He says he was in the military. He was on a leave from a long tour in Korea when he saw Rolf Harris at this place. And it turned out I was wrong about him not having been in the military. He did 1 week of national service and then was discharged due to bedwetting.
Really?
That was their witness.
Yeah.
Who put Rolf Harris there? Nobody. Because why would you? It's like, why would you bother? You've already been convicted. You've already been convicted of it. And I'm looking backwards at his conviction because they were trying to use his conviction to prove the next cases. Understandably.
Mud
Saying,
sticks, yeah.
This guy's Rolf Harris. Of course he did this lot. So I'm looking at the last lot with my normal, they're saying the car is blue, but my client's saying it's red.
Yeah.
So let's have a look. And it turned out the car was red.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas
So-
if I did what you're saying that maybe I should do is swerve it, so, I'm not going to read those papers from the first trial.
Yeah.
He's banged to rights on that.
On top of that, if these bad things did happen, someone else has done them and they need to be found. Do you know what I mean? Let alone, making this guy guilty of it, someone else has done it and they've got away with
But
it. So
some of them had come forward. One of them in particular came forward. She was she was on sort of BBC Southampton or something like that. And I put to her in the witness box, is this the first time you've appeared on national television? Because she was a reporter on the South Coast. And she said to me, oh, Mr. Vullo, I want to report the news, not be the news. And I said to her at the time, that sounds like you've worked a long time to work out that answer. And she denied having anything to do in terms of making any hay out of being a witness in the case. 2 days later, my wife shouted at me from upstairs saying, switch on Radio 4, switch on Radio 4. She'd been making a fly-on-the-wall documentary about the whole thing.
the whole thing, yeah.
And
So
it
it was
was-
all about,
Well, I can't,
elevating.
I'll have to be careful what I say. I can't say
Yeah.
it was all about that.
Yeah.
But
Sounds like
she
it.
denied in court that she had any media bookings due to being a witness.
Agenda, yeah.
Or trying to sort of make media bookings and progress in the media from it. And what I do know now is that in a car on the way there, she's talking into her microphone saying, I'm just about to be cross-examined by Mr. Vullo. I'm on my way to court.
Yeah.
So all those things definitely happen.
Yeah, yeah.
What like most of us, especially in boxing and in life, I guess, we've had lots of inspiration and people have inspired us. For you going along from the beginning through to now, the present, what inspires you with a job?
I don't think it is a case of I don't think it is a case of inspiration. No, we've spoken about this before. A lot of it is avoiding messing up and avoiding losing. So as opposed to winning, and I've worked this out a few years ago. Rolf Harris was one of the cases that representing Rolf Harris. All of my peers, so it's not just mates, but sort of people that are other barristers were saying to me, bridge too far on this one, obviously, and you can't win this one. And we did. He was acquitted in 2 different cases after that, so of everything. And he was released from prison, didn't go back to prison. He'd have died in prison had he been convicted again.
He was guilty of stuff from the first trial.
He remained guilty of stuff from the first trial, which we weren't able to overturn. One of the things we did overturn, but he'd already served his time for it. And he actually came out of prison during the currency of the third trial, sorry. So he had a second trial, he was found not guilty, and then they couldn't decide on a couple of things. Then had a third trial, he was found not guilty in the end of everything. And it was obviously in the media, in the newspapers and stuff like that, because it was well followed. And so, my wife rang and said, "Oh, I'm really proud of you. I've seen it on the news." Friends, and my phone was sort of blowing up. People texting, saying, "Oh my God, yeah, what a result," and all of that type of stuff. And people, like some big names from the bar that I'd worked with, sort of texting me, sort of saying, "Oh, well done," and everything. But I got into a cab outside Southwark Crown Court, and I've told you this before. I sort of sat in the car, and objectively speaking, I had won a really big case that was considered by many to be unwinnable. I should be patting myself on the back and maybe have the night off and have a good time. My only feeling was one of sort of relief, and then move on to the next one. That was it.
Really?
Yeah, within minutes, it had gone.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so there was no, oh yeah, now that, what a great win.
It's a bit like
it was an avoiding a defeat.
It's a bit like sort of liken it to someone like Mayweather. No matter what he won, he was just so obsessed with staying there. Like nothing scratched the itch. Have you had anything?
That's a really good way. It hasn't scratched the itch.
Yeah.
No, it never scratches the itch.
Nothing does.
The guy that was in prison, he's 5 years in prison. We go to the Court of Appeal, overturn his conviction. I asked for bail on the day, so he's in prison, been in prison for 5 years. The Court of Appeal grant his appeal, quash his conviction, but they order a retrial, so you've got to go through it again. He's released on bail, which is a human experience. Can you imagine? He's serving 16 years, 5 years in. His wife, his wife's father sold a house, went to live with the wife, and spent all the money trying to prove that he hadn't done it. We had experts from America and all of this, and he really hadn't done it. It was another one where he hadn't done it. He gets released on bail. He's on bail for a number of months, waiting for a trial. If he gets convicted at the trial, he goes back and serves the rest of his time in prison. And this period of time he came out, it would be almost like torturous to come out in the middle of a long sentence, and then to go back, with the hope and he was under huge pressure, and it was a hugely pressurised case. But he was acquitted. They sent me photographs. They took photographs of hugging me on the steps of the courts. Walking away from the court, it's kind of gone. Yeah.
So we ask this question a lot. Like, what is winning to you? So winning to you is just to keep winning.
No, it's not losing.
So not losing.
Not losing.
Not losing. So what does losing look like to you? So say for instance,
devastation.
Where I find it. Has there been cases where an individual has been found guilty where you're convinced he or she wasn't?
No.
Would that be losing to you?
That would be devastation.
Because if you lose a case, but when you look at it, you're defending someone who has been found guilty.
There's only been one case I've done where I believe the person to be innocent, but he was found guilty. There's only ever been one.
So if theoretically, then you've only ever lost once.
No.
Well, okay,
that's not.
No,
no.
Hold on a minute. So
I've lost on points a few times.
But if the jury has found an individual guilty, then how can that be a loss to you? Because there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. Like,
I know, but in cases where, and to be fair, there aren't many in the last 10 years that I've lost. But there are. Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yeah, no, because you're sort of dealing with it on a sort of a good and bad register.
Black and white.
Yeah, so
it's a black and white thing.
Only one person's got convicted on your watch that you don't think should have. Well, that's a fairly good record. But there will be other cases where, like for example, I always give myself sort of 2 mistakes, maybe 3 mistakes in the case, depending how long it is. I'm talking small mistakes, maybe phrasing a question incorrectly, saying a question too quickly, or too slow.
Ultra perfectionist.
I don't think I'm a perfectionist as such, but I just will know if I've got something
diligent
wrong. And if you were to say to me, "Can you remember mistakes?" I can list them all right from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And I often think about them. Yeah.
And you think that could have led to the case being lost?
I don't know, but I can remember. I can remember the mistake. I can remember. I can remember. If you wanted me to now, I could run through what I told you. The first mistake I made, getting the name wrong. That was my second case, getting the name wrong.
Yeah.
I can still remember that happening, and I can still feel embarrassed about it.
But from Darren's question, like that's a loss. Like how it affects me or you to lose a fight is how it affects you to get something wrong.
Yeah, the emotional effect. There was the most difficult loss that I had was a partial loss. A man was found not guilty of most things, and I do believe in him, and he was found guilty of a small amount of things. We went to the Court of Appeal. They really, in my opinion, should have overturned it. The prosecutor, we had the hearing in the Court of Appeal. The prosecutor came to me before the judges came to give their decision and congratulated me on the win. And I said, well, I haven't actually won yet, but that's what it sounded like. And then they came back and said no. And he, during the currency of he had supposed to have 2 trials, drove into a tree, tried a serious suicide attempt to put himself into a wheelchair. Like, that's a loss because he got convicted. I won't go into the details of it, but he got convicted on something I don't think he did. The jury were out for 3 weeks finding him not guilty of a number of other things, and then came back with a quite bizarre sort of guilty verdict on one thing against one of the complainants in a very sort of unusual case. And he's still somebody that I'm in contact with now, but he's living his life in a wheelchair. That's a loss for sure.
Yeah, I struggle with it a little bit, just because you're using the law, and if you've done what you can to defend someone, and the jury says that someone is guilty, then why should you personally take that as a loss if you're
because I honestly don't believe there's any case that can't be won.
But what if they're nailed on? They're guilty. They've
like Tarzan, Rolf Harris, Dave Lee Travis. I've had loads of nailed on cases.
But what about like the Glasgow bomber? Like, there's no way that can't be won.
Well,
he's there on camera doing it, and he got convicted.
We did have a win in that to some extent, because sure, it'd be very difficult to have him found not guilty. He committed his crime live on Sky TV, so that would be difficult. But at the time, I don't know if you remember this, but the invasion of Iraq, there was a big argument going on as to whether the invasion of Iraq had increased terrorism, or whether it was our war on terror, like we were taking it to them and reducing it. In my opinion, it obviously escalated terrorism, and Bilal Abdullah is Dr. Bilal Abdullah. He was a doctor that worked in the National Health Service in this country. A few years before he became the Glasgow bomber, he was applying to the English Army to be a medic. So totally invested in this country, working for the NHS, thinking to be a medic in the Army. And there was no suggestion that 8 years prior that he was trying to become a mole in the English Army. There's no suggestion even by the prosecution of that. We invaded Iraq, and we read out a list of, I can't remember exactly the number, but it was in the dozens of people that had been killed, maimed, raped by the opposing side in Iraq, who we put into power, or American soldiers or English soldiers who were directly connected to him. And said to the judge, it's not a defence, but it's mitigation. He's not someone that's just read a religious text and gone off and got it wrong. He had a personal provocation and reason behind what he did. And normally with terrorism, somebody will get a 40-year minimum term. It's almost like nailed on. That's what terrorists get. And the judge gave him a 32-year minimum term, which may not sound like a great deal, but it's actually very significant.
It's acknowledging a personal thing.
It's acknowledging, and I remember as well, the prosecution said in their closing speech, no one, because what he was saying was that he had not set these bombs to blow up, because he did the Tiger car bomb. There was a Tiger car bomb, and he didn't intend to hurt anyone. And the prosecution said in their closing speech, well, no one has ever, sort of as a freedom fighter, planted bombs not intended to hurt anyone. Like, that's a load of nonsense. Nobody's ever done that before. And so I went away and over the weekend looking, and actually Nelson Mandela did exactly the same thing. Or that's what his argument was. He put a bomb in a supermarket where white people were going, but said it was meant to scare and to terrorise, not to blow up. And so in our closing speech, I drafted, and Jim Sturman presented it, saying, actually, we're not saying it has happened. We're not saying he's Nelson Mandela. Yeah. But it has actually happened, and the prosecution said to us afterwards that they started to panic hearing it. Thinking, oh my word, this isn't going to go against us. Surely we can't lose. Right. We can't lose sort of from here, and they obviously didn't. But but
they made a naive statement.
They made a naive statement, and I'm entitled to fight on my client's behalf, and that's what I did. And we came back with and the way that I drafted it was actually, it has happened before. We didn't say who it was, and went through a few of the things that he did without naming him, and then named him and Nelson Mandela at the end, and you could see it's like, wow, really? We didn't know that. Yeah. And so I suppose in boxing parlance, I sort of saw a swing as I was going down. But I still managed to connect on the way down. Yeah.
It's mad, and
it's fascinating.
When you get into it,
I would see it like, I don't know how this would sound, but it almost, to me, being a defendant is almost like a win-win situation, because I feel like you're putting faith in the law. Okay, so if you're defending
a defense barrister,
so if you're defending someone, and again, it all comes down to the point, well, look, I tried, but you're guilty. So then that person, for whatever their punishment is deserved. But on the flip side, if you defend someone and you've rightly so got them off, then that's also, when you get a massive pat on the back. I don't know if I sound stupid here, but in my head it kind of sounds like,
because you're talking about black and white without the grey. There will be people that are guilty, that have been found not guilty, properly and appropriately found not guilty, because the evidence wasn't enough to prove them guilty, but they did do it. And that's the bit that you're missing from your scenario. So it's like, if I go to court, the burden and standard of proof, the burden's on the prosecution to prove the case. They have to prove the case so that the jury is sure. If you fall below that, it's not guilty, you walk. That's not being found innocent. It's just being found not guilty. So there will certainly be, and I say this to jurors, I'm very open talking to jurors about this. I think it's a very important thing to explain. Lots of, again, early in my career, you'd get barristers saying things like, oh, you're not going to do the old burden and standard of proof speech, are you, Vullo? Demeaning, like, and it would often be phrased as if, like, oh, that's the only thing you can do, like an old hackish thing to do. But we've just been speaking about it now. I think it's the most important thing for a jury to understand is, like, what are the rules? So I talk openly to juries about it. Sometimes I'll point at the person in the dock and say, look, he's probably guilty. He probably is.
You say
I say he's probably guilty. I said, when you think about it, that person said this and that he probably did it. It's not enough, because he might not have done it. And once you start once you start thinking, well, we're not going to apply the rules, we'll just go on our gut, then innocent people are going to go to prison, like Tarzan would have gone to prison in that scenario. And
I might have. Do you know what I mean?
You certainly would have if it had been you would have.
So talk about when I met Steve. Bambos was the
at work.
Yeah, at work. We spoke about it on our podcast, didn't we? How I got in trouble on a building site and got into a fight, and he came off worse, and for that reason, I'm the one that gets nicked, and I'll get charged with a Section 18, won't it?
Yeah. Grievous bodily harm with intent.
Yeah. So I'm now in a cell, waiting for my interview, and my duty solicitor comes in, and he's like, I get pulled into a room to have a meeting with him, and I sit and I'm talking to a guy with a t-shirt on that's got I think it's Bart Simpson on a surfboard saying "surfer dude" on it, and I'm like,
that's what you want.
you know when something just bothers you a bit. I'm like, I thought it'd turn up in a suit. Anyway, I've got surfer dude sitting opposite me, and then I had one call. I speak to my dad on the phone. And he said, look, I've spoken to so-and-so, and they've got a solicitor that they recommend. His name's Bambos. I don't even know if he said his name at the time, but I found out his name was Bambos. And I ended up, like, my dad said, what do you want to do? Go with the one you got, or do you want to go with this guy? And I said, well, I've either got a surfer dude, or I've got someone I'm being recommended, so I'll go with that one. So surfer dude left. And
what a switching doors moment.
yeah. And
can you imagine if that bloke turned up in a suit? I wouldn't know you.
Yeah, as simple as that.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And there's loads of those moments.
Yeah.
There's loads of those moments in this case. And I then go to the hearing. So I'll go from the police cell, which I was in for 4 or 5 days,
for your first hearing,
straight to the magistrate's court. They say I've got to put 20 grand up to get out. I didn't have no money. Only luck, again, Ralph Buglioni, good friend of mine, says, look, here's the money, don't do a runner. And they say to him, right, you've got to sleep at Ralph's house on bail. So I go there. And then after a little while, I managed to go and meet this new solicitor, Bambos. And when I sit down with Bambos, being me, I'd already done my research, like the law firm. I'd looked him up, looked at the sort of barristers on there, and I turned up and he said, look, I've got an idea. I've got actually the barrister that I favour. He said I most like to use is a bloke called Stephen Vullo, and I've got an idea. He loves boxing. It's like, I think if you meet him, he likes. If he likes you, he might take on your case. I know he's busy with another case at the moment, but I'm going to try and get you to meet him. So I then go to meet Steve, and again, making effort where I needed to. I wore a suit.
Yeah.
I wore a suit. I don't think I owned a suit. I bought a suit to go to this meeting to meet Steve. Sat down because I want him to know I'm not a baddie. Do you know what I mean?
If he
I'm
had
innocent.
the surfer dude t-shirt, would you have swerved him?
Well, I had the surfer dude switch.
Yeah.
No, the instant thing I knew was how much it meant to you.
Yeah.
Straight away.
Exactly that.
So, and it sounds surprising, but there'll be loads of young men in his situation that walk in with a sort of hand down their pants.
Yeah.
Sit there slung back in the chair.
Well, on my way to the court from the police station, the magistrate's court, I got in the wagon with the cages in the back, and the other blokes that were in there with
banging,
me,
shouting.
they're going, "Turn the music up, mate!" To the bloke like driving, turn the music up. And I was in devastation, thinking, I'm looking at 10 years or whatever it was. I didn't even know what I was looking at. Anyway, I turned up to Steve and sort of told him the story. This is what happened, and we actually shook hands.
I got to show the level of respect that he was showing at the time. I was winding him up because I'd done one white collar fight by then, so my career had already started down. And he came in. I said, I understand you've been sort of captain of England and you've won all these things. I said, but you're an amateur boxer, is that right? Like acting ignorant. So you're an amateur boxer. He said, yeah. And I said, so I'm a professional person. I'm a barrister and I've done a white collar fight. So I'm a professional. I'm a professional boxer. Is that the way it works? Right. And he's looking totally depressed. So does that mean I'm better at boxing you? Because I think professional boxers are better than amateur boxers, aren't they, normally? And he looked at me and he said, oh, I don't know, sir. I've never seen you fight.
Looking at the time at a bent nose, thinking, mate.
Yeah. I've done one fight, broke my nose. But that was kind of I was obviously winding him
yeah.
up, but that was a level of assault. He wasn't going to say to me, "Don't,
Fuck
don't
off,
be
mate."
a muppet."
Yeah,
yeah.
And at the end of that conversation, he said, I want to do another white collar fight. He said, if you get acquitted, you got to train me for it. And I said, yeah, 100%. And we shook hands, and that happened. Like, long story short, that did happen. I trained him for a few.
Quality.
But just seeing you...
Well, what I was asking for was like one training session, not to be trained.
Oh, okay.
And I was only joking. Like, it was, if you get acquitted, you can give me a training session. And after he was acquitted, very unusually, because people promise you the earth before they're found not guilty, then they're often found not guilty. And I understand it. I represent a bad memory. Yeah. And so people often want to just walk away. They don't want to come back. And it's not lack of gratitude. I think it's just they need to move on.
Yeah.
I get a phone call a couple of weeks later from Ryan saying, he always called me Mr. Vullo at the time. So Mr. Vullo, come and train at Repton. I'll open it up for you on Sunday. So I went in on a Sunday into the ring in Repton. I know that you two guys know it really well, but for someone like me to sort of go into Repton, I'm with the captain of Repton. He's won a few medals and all that. I'm in the ring, and he's showing me how to do it. So I had a great sort of 2 hours, or whatever it was. Learned a lot in the 2 hours, and said, "Thanks very much, Ryan. That was brilliant. Thanks. That's absolutely great." And he said, "Well, I'll see you next week." I said, No. Once is more than enough. And I said, "Well, what I do is I'll pay you then. Like, if you're up for it, I'll pay you." And he said, "Absolutely not. Wouldn't take the money." Knew he was genuine, that he didn't want to take the money. And he said, "I'm going to train you for your fight, and I'm going to be in your corner, do your corner and everything." And I was like, that's fucking amazing. And it was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And the second fight, believe me, I won it big time. I did. It was like,
but you know what?
I was like white collar plus. It was, I was doing stuff that white collar fighters shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
He was
now you really can turn pro.
Now I am.
Now you are.
Now I am actually better than him. Having seen me fight. Yeah,
you really are.
Yeah.
But going through that process, like talking about you having to defend people, right? And those people, like I said at the beginning, are deemed the kind of the baddies of the planet. Now,
well, you were one of them.
I was one of them.
If somebody would just go, sort of fractured skull on the building site, terrible injury.
Yeah.
Hit with a spirit level, send him to prison. Yeah. You bring the standard down at all, it's like, send him to prison.
And what it done for me, like, it was way more. It was way more than not going to prison. I think somebody outside of boxing believing in me for stuff outside of boxing. You was the first person to do that, and you did it for no reason. Because I did believe you. Yeah. Not you didn't just believe me.
No, I believed in you.
You believed in me, and I felt that, and it changed my life, and I think that is the power of your job, and that's kind of what you're doing. Is like you're believing in people, and you're giving them a chance. And obviously for me, it worked out well, and we've become really close friends. But it's the same for everyone that you've done it for. You've given everyone a chance, and don't matter. And you have an ability that surpasses my ability in giving everyone a chance, because that I couldn't give some of those people that chance.
Yes, but not everyone takes it. You saying that just reminds me of a case that I did a murder case at the Old Bailey where my client was charged on the conspiracy to do a very terrible killing. It was a drugs killing with a machine gun. It was awful. But he had provided a car, and he accepted he provided a car, but said I didn't know what they were going to do with it. So that was the issue in his case. And he was found not guilty after about 3 weeks. 4 people in the dock. 3 of them got life sentences, 32 years, 30 years, 30 years minimum terms. So they will serve that time. They're all in their 20s. And my client's found not guilty. And he said to me from the dock, can I meet you outside? So I waited for him outside the Old Bailey, and he said, thanks very much. Obviously, he said, can we take you for a drink? My brother's here, my mum's here. So we went across the road, had a drink, had another drink, had a few other drinks, and we worked out how many hours he would have seen his children, which going back to he had young children, how many hours he would have seen his children over the next 30 years had he gone to prison. You get a couple of hours every 2 weeks. I can't remember what the calculation was, but we said, say they came every 2 hours, every 2 weeks for the whole time. You're talking, adding it up, using 24 hours in a day.
Or something.
Yeah, it's like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And he burst into tears. And what I did say to him is that this is your chance. Like, just bear that in 6 weeks.
If that can't change your mindset
6 weeks.
and your habits,
About
what will?
About 2 or 3 years later, and he said to me, I swear that I'll never get into any trouble again. About 3 or 4 years later, I was reading a drugs case. The boys in Islington came up with a good ruse of watching cannabis farms being set up, usually by people from Southeast Asia, and rather than grow it themselves, they just wait for it all to be done. They go in, they nick it. Of course, the people can't then ring the police and say somebody's nicked all of our cannabis. So it's quite a clever crime. In this one, somebody ran up onto the roof because he was scared people coming in. They hadn't hurt anyone before, but he'd run up onto the roof, fell through the roof, and he died. And so now the police turn up. There are a few overturned cannabis plants and a dead body. So now they're really investigating. They hadn't really investigated before. I get instructed to represent one of the defendants. I'm reading through the papers, and as I'm reading through the papers, I see my client's name from
who said he'd never get in trouble again.
Never get in trouble again. And my first thought was, why didn't he come back to me? I provided a fairly good service the first time round. So I rang the solicitor in that case, and she was in this case, and I said, I won't say the name, but Mr. X, he's up again. And she went, oh, how do you know? I said, well, I'm instructed to represent Mr. Y. And she went, oh my God, he's going to go he's going to freak. And I said, why didn't he come back to me? And he said, he didn't want you to know. He got himself into trouble again after the promise he made. And I walked into court, and court's obviously meant to be a formal place. The judge is there. It's the first hearing. There are a number of defendants, and he's in the dock. And as I walk in, he stands up and starts shouting, Mr. Vullo, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, in front of the judge. And the judge is saying, Mr. Vullo, is that your client? And I'm like, no, it's not this time, but difficult to explain.
Yeah. How long after was it? Sorry?
4 or 5 years.
And what happened?
He got 4 years, I think, because nobody had killed the man. It was but he got himself into a bit of trouble.
But I can totally relate. Having that person believe in you. I even now I feel a responsibility to you, and I know you don't. It's not from you; it's from me.
No, it is from me too. No, it is. I'd be really disappointed.
Yeah, of course.
I'd be really disappointed if you got into stupid trouble again.
Yeah,
yeah.
But I feel that anyway, and I sort of just having how important that was for someone to just show belief in me, and then I started to go what am I going to do now? This is the road that I've been presented.
I honestly believe that could be true of almost everybody. If you go on to the roughest estate in London and you take a 4-year-old boy and you take him out and you put him into a caring, nurturing environment, he does not grow up to be somebody that stabs someone to death when he's 18. I've got 2 sons, 18 and 16. I know absolutely 100% that neither of them will stab someone to death. I know that.
Yeah.
And all these sort of young boys, and I've seen lots of them that getting convicted of murder, and they're doing stabbings. I look at all of them and think, if you had just moved them.
Yeah.
And the other way as well, if you took my boys and you put them in that environment, I'm not saying there's anything innate in my boys that mean they wouldn't stab someone. Like if you put them into a really shit environment
yeah,
where that's what people do, then they would go that way, and the boys we took out would go the other way. So I've only met maybe 3 or 4 people in my whole career who I would look at and think there's nothing in you. Yeah, there's no.
I was going to ask you that.
There's no.
They give you a chill, like
two of them severely mentally. Yeah, there's something severely going on mentally.
We call it evil.
Yeah, I suppose you would, but especially because we always check if people obviously have psychiatric issues that might be a defence. When the psychiatrist comes back and says they're just not
evil,
they're just not nice.
Wow.
Yeah, they don't. Well, but even then, I think that's probably because science hasn't quite got there. I had.
So is that a psychopath, or is that?
Yeah. Or even beyond that, a man killed his next door neighbour over a television and then tried to frame his mother in a wheelchair to say that she did it.
This is something that you dealt with.
Yeah, and I still remember him now. This is many years ago, but he came in and said, "What did I know about human rights law?" And I said, "Well, quite a bit. What do you want to know?" And he said, "They won't let me wear women's knickers in prison." And I said, "Well, do you want to be wearing women's knickers in prison?" He went, good point. And then we moved on. It was a very terrible case. But I remember that sentence that was the only time he accepted anything I had to say. After that, it was like, oh, my mum did it. And I'd having to point out to him that the murder was committed on the 2nd floor of the house next door, and his mum's in a wheelchair.
Oh, he's tried to blame his own mum.
Trying to blame his own mum.
Flipping heck.
Yeah. But when I went in there, they took my pens off me. The guards took my pens off me and gave me a short pencil because that's all I was allowed to take in.
Right, in case he got it off you.
Yeah. And he was lost. There was nothing you could do for him. But then on a flip side of that, again, many years ago, I went to a magistrate's court and the prison guards met me. It was a phone call. Can you go and deal with someone I'd never dealt with before? And the prison guards met me at the gate and said, "Your guy's basically done a dirty process. He's wiped shit all over the walls. He's kicked off. He's been attacking us and all that." And so I go through the wicket.
Can't wait. Yeah.
Yeah. So I open the wicket, talk to him, and I said, "Look, what's going on?" I'd never met him before. And he said, "I wanted to go for a wee." And they just kept saying no. And it was like 3 hours. They kept saying no, and I wet myself. Then they took the piss that I wet myself. So then he's done his dirty protest. And they can hear him because they've got the plastic sort of shields, the security guards at the court. So
the riot shields.
Yeah, so I walked beyond the riot shields to talk to him through the wicket. Because I think I'm not going to talk to him behind the shields, show him a little bit of respect. So I'm talking to him through the wicket. And they can hear what he's saying. And interestingly, I don't hear anyone saying that's not true. Right. So so I'm thinking, okay, he should have done what he's done, but I can understand his frustration. And I said, "Well, look, I can't come into that cell and talk to you with all of that. There's another cell over here, but they don't want to move you because they think you're going to kick off." I said, "So do you give me your word that if I get them to move you from one cell to another, that you'll not cause any trouble? You give me your word?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, that's good enough for me." I said, "Can you move him?" And they were like, "No." I said, "He's given me his word. So move him, please. I need to speak to him." And they did move him, and he didn't do anything. It was like just a matter of honour.
Yeah.
And I just took his word, absolutely. And I knew that he would comply with it because I showed him a little bit of respect. I took his word.
I thought you were going to say he was one of the evil ones, but this is not an evil one.
No, this is the opposite.
Right.
This is sort of someone
on the face of
he's
it.
covered in shit.
Yeah.
He's literally covered his cell in shit and himself in shit and attacked the guards. But he had a genuine grievance. I can see he felt badly done by them, and that's what happened. And he walked. And
that's
then,
all he's got almost.
and
That's
then-
all, is that
yeah,
his
and
only
then-
way of
Yeah, that's
protest?
right. And when the magistrates came, they refused to take him upstairs, and so they were going to do his hearing, and it was a bail hearing. So I'm trying to get him bail, not a great start.
Yeah.
And so I insisted on being in the cell with him, because I said, I'm not going to stand outside the cell. He's entitled to me represent him. So I went and stood next to him in the cell and did a bail application through the wicket. So I say, so magistrates,
Really?
he can live at his mother's address.
Yeah.
Looking through the little wicket, and they gave him bail.
Did they
Yeah,
really?
they did. Yeah, they gave him
And
bail.
it might be that, you know, the fact that he proved that he could be in your company and
I can't remember the facts.
What was he
of-
up for?
I can't remember. I can't remember the facts of the case, but I just remember that interaction. Do you give me your word? And me doing an assumed close on the guards, basically.
And what were the other? You said there was 2 or 3 like evil ones.
Well, one I've spoken about already. The guy from many years ago that was head of a children's home.
Right.
He
that was when you were with Jarvid.
Yeah. He was evil, manipulative, predatory, paedophile.
Yeah. And what made you what made you know the others were? What was it about them? Is it just a gut feeling?
Yeah,
It's just like
it just is. It's
Yeah.
it's just an assessment. That whatever you did for that person, they wouldn't respect it. They wouldn't walk from one cell to the other. They'd kick off.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be able to respect
Yeah.
it.
Yes. It must be so difficult to be in. I remember you. Yeah. Yeah. It must be difficult to be in someone's company that's like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But like I say, I must have represented. Okay, God, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of people by now.
Yeah.
And you're talking about like less than a handful are
Yeah.
people that I'd be happy to sort of press a button on and say chuck him into the garbage.
Yeah. Do you get any support, like psychological support?
No, that's
No.
that's funny. My wife said that when the client that I had drove himself into attempted to commit suicide. It's very difficult. I still feel like I bear a lot of responsibility for that, and there's no point saying, "Oh, you don't," and you did your best and all that. For a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
But no, nothing
Nothing.
at all. And you know,
And have you seek that out?
I've
for
sorted it
that?
out myself. I've sorted
Yeah.
it out myself.
Yeah.
But no, as a profession, like police officers will be offered it, and I think as a profession we're miles behind. Like,
Because you must see and hear some stuff that, like,
yes,
because you got to watch videos of evidence and
Yeah.
stuff, and
I watch people being killed. I watch people being chopped up in autopsies.
yeah,
I did a case a few years ago, and I had a sort of real conscious moment. It was a young woman, and I was watching a particular type of post-mortem procedure being done. I won't explain what it was, but I had this really conscious moment of invading her privacy, thinking, God, I didn't know this woman, and she was only sort of in her 20s. She would never have known that I was going to be watching a procedure done on her dead body. It just felt like a real invasion of her privacy. But I had to watch it because I had to understand what had happened
yeah,
in relation to some particular injuries in a case where, again, the case, it was overwhelming, but he didn't do it. It was like the English equivalent of the staircase.
Really?
I don't know if you've seen that, but
Yeah.
I
think I
probably
told
haven't
you
got
about it,
time
didn't I?
to
Staircase.
go on to another story, but that was an open and shut case.
yeah,
And he didn't do it. And we know he didn't do it because it's the only time in my whole career, at the end of the evidence, the prosecutor has come to me and said, "We think you've proven he didn't murder his partner, and will you plead to something else?" So the prosecutor, at the end of hearing the evidence before it's gone to the
Really?
jury, has come to me, and it was a fantastically firm but fair thing to do. He's a brilliant prosecutor. You imagine we'd been 4, 5, 6 weeks, we'd been arguing with experts and got to the end of it, and he had the ability to take that step back and say, "Do you know what? You've proved your case."
Yeah,
And
even
I'm
they,
not happy.
even they don't.
I'm not happy to
prosecute on
to
that.
get this man convicted of murder when I don't think he did it, and the evidence doesn't prove it. The evidence proves something else.
And did he plead guilty to something else?
He pleaded guilty to gross negligence manslaughter, which, because his partner was injured at the bottom of the stairs, he was criminally negligent in not calling an ambulance and assisting her.
Right.
And that's what he was guilty of.
Right.
That's all he was ever guilty of. But he was accused of murder. And Darren, if we probably haven't got time to go through it all, but if I gave you the bullet points of it and said, well, what do you reckon, Darren? Well, let's just get on with guilty, not guilty. 100 people out of 100 would say guilty if you didn't dig and dig and dig into it.
I get it, 100%.
Yeah.
Understand it.
Doesn't mean every time you dig that they're innocent.
But you've got to do the digging.
You've got to dig.
You've got to do the digging.
You've got to dig.
I totally understand.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It really is.
It's like training for a fight.
Yeah.
You've got to train for every fight.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't matter.
You're not 100% it's going to go.
Doesn't matter who you're against. Doesn't matter if the fight might not go ahead and it gets cancelled. You still got to
You'll
train.
be ready.
Yeah.
On reflection, like looking back at a younger you, like what would you sort of what advice would you give, or like what warning would you give a younger you that's sort of taking on this challenge?
There's two different questions there. The
Yeah.
advice I'd give myself if I could go back is probably sounds a bit weird, but it's strive for happiness, not success. I mean, they're two very different things. So, do you know what? I'm not going to say anything else than that, because it's not about career and all of that. It's what I say to my children is you have to strive to be happy. That's the most important thing. And happiness might be being fantastically successful, earning lots of money. It may not be. Happiness may come in many, many forms.
Yeah.
But strive to be happy.
It comes with maturity, that doesn't it? I think when you get a bit older, when you're younger, you're just driven by success.
Well, yeah, I think
because you think that people will love you for it and it will make you happy.
Yeah.
That's why I think that's why you do it. And then so you drive and drive and drive. You win your world titles. Everyone love you more now, Darren. Now you won your world title. Yeah, you healed. You're enough.
Yeah.
Were you enough the moment they hung the belt around your waist, Darren? Finally,
I mean, that's
you're enough.
Yeah, ultimately, that's why
I suspect you walked away and put it in a cupboard, and moved on.
Ultimately, I had that realization that I'm not. It's not going to give me what it is I'm looking for. You know?
No, but then it's
So
just
it's
diverted you onto a different path.
Yeah,
but you're still on the same path.
Yeah, I wanted it. But it didn't define me.
Yeah, I want to win cases. Yeah. Did I want to be a silk? Am I chuffed with myself that from my background I became a KC and my dad sort of saying, how much they pay you? Yeah, I'm chuffed about that. But it hasn't made me enough. It hasn't healed me and made me love myself. And it's not done all of those.
Is that a chapter? Like, is that a new chapter? Is that like, will you turn the page on this?
Yeah, well, and that's why I sort of started a deli. The Sicilian deli, by the way, in Herne Hill and West Dulwich, open 7 days a week.
You've got two of them.
Two of them, yeah. That's what I love doing. It's funny, I had my tarot cards read the other day. I don't believe in them at all, but the girls in the office were booking it for themselves. It was some promotional thing. And I said, I'll go. And the guy said to me, you do two things. You're passionate about both, but you love one of them. And I thought, do you know what? That's perfect.
Bang on.
Yeah, I do two things. I'm a lawyer and I'm a deli owner, sort of chef, cook.
Yeah.
And I do them both passionately, but I love one of them. And I love cooking. Yeah,
I went down to the deli the other day on a Saturday and he's like just in the kitchen.
I have to get down.
He's the chef.
Yeah.
I will come.
And it's a yin and yang. It's a black, there's nothing dark about making people food and putting a great deal of care of attention into it and giving them some, but giving them some food. There's no downside. There's no dark side to that. It's There's no.
I've never really thought about it. It's a very wholesome.
Yeah. Somebody asked me, why did you do a deli? And it suddenly dawned on me because, sometimes I go into the shop and I'm making tiramisu, and I make it from the very beginning, making the sponge. I don't cheat and use sponge fingers, and people see me doing it over my shoulder and go, "Is the tiramisu ready yet?" And I say, "I tell you what, I'll make you a little one like right now." And I give it to them. It's like a transaction of a little bit of tiramisu. I think we charge like £3 for it. So it's not the money. But it's a lovely human transaction.
Proper job satisfaction.
Yeah.
I've told you the story when I lived in Camden. There was a bloke who sold fresh orange juice. I'm sure he still does. And it was cheap. A little bottle of fresh orange. He squeezes the oranges there. And I thought, what a nice little job.
Yeah.
You know, like you
just giving people something nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And he'd probably be happy.
Yeah, he was always happy. But honestly, the happiest man in Camden he was.
Yeah, so if you...
he was always jovial, happy, joking, laughing.
Yeah. So there you go. You sort of get to the top of a profession, and he's squeezing orange juice, and he's the happy one.
Yeah. And I asked you, what would you warn yourself of? Same sort of thing, really, I suppose, isn't it? It's
the opposite.
Yeah.
Like just thinking that success is going to make you happy.
Yeah.
And when my children were born, I missed holidays and missed time with them because I'm obsessively trying to win cases, get the next big case. And I had bills to pay, so there's an element of that. But looking back, I could have done less. Had less, done less, but ended up with more.
Yeah, because you sort of build your life around what you're sort of earning and what lifestyle you've got.
That's something I definitely, I think, advice-wise, is like, don't know when you have enough. Like I had one house and a bigger house and a bigger house. So probably somewhere on that list of houses, my house was big enough.
Yeah.
I could have just...
Did Steve Jobs say something, I think, in his final days about, he's had all of this money, and if you spend £2,000 or 150 grand on a car, you get into the same place.
Exactly.
And things like that. And food as well. Use food as your medicine, or as you'll need medicine to something. It's really interesting.
But it's true. It's like, and he died with billions and billions of pounds in the bank. It's like I think he didn't need that.
You said to me before, I don't know if it was clients that you represented it, or it was maybe a documentary you watched or something, but about people not either on their deathbed or looking at a life sentence.
When I went to New York and I went to the 9/11 memorial, and I was walking around, and it's obvious, but it's something that was so obvious when it struck me. It was really significant that all of it's a fantastic memorial. I don't know if you've been there. Like so well done, and you just walk around and there are videos, pieces of paper, and you realise that when people are facing death or almost certain death, there's only one thing they want to do, and that's to tell the people that they love that they love them. They're not ringing up the bank manager saying, "Oh, 9/11's happening. I think the stock market's going to crash. Make sure you get my shares out before that happens." You're not ringing the bloke you've always hated saying, "Do you know what? I'm just about to die. I've always wanted to tell you what a wanker you were." Like, all of it disappears, and the only thing of significance is telling people
love
that, and that's it. If you look at the messages, they're not detailed in any way.
No.
People were ringing from aeroplanes saying, I just wanted to tell you I love you." That's it. And there's no, and by the way, this and that. There's no long stories on answer phone messages or pieces of paper. So I came back from that. It had a big impact on me. I came back, kept saying to my kids, I'd sort of freaked out, saying there is nothing in life other than love. There isn't anything else that's important. It's just love. That's it. Like money, success, what people think of you, what they don't think of you.
Yeah.
There is only love. That's it.
So, I mean, that brings us to the crutch of why we're here. It's like, what is driving you? Why are you fighting? Why fight?
Same as everybody else, whether they know it or not. It's to be loved. That's what I think everybody is scrabbling around, doing everything that they're doing. If you water it down, people want to be loved and to love.
Yeah.
I often think, I've said this to you before, you go on the tube and you see the escalators and you see people going up and down and all sort of serene and not saying anything. I often picture people on the tube screaming in sort of pain and emotional anguish. That's what's really going on in people, and everyone wants
We're all
to be
crying
loved.
babies in adult bodies.
Yeah. And the guy did a really fascinating thing. I've said that a lot, and then a couple of years ago, I think somebody gave people cards to write what they were thinking as they came down the tube, and suicidal, depressed. You know, then the people were coming down with cards with real things on them, and you're just going past people every day.
Yeah,
and everything in the end, I think, comes down to that.
That's the holy grail in a way, isn't it? It's love. Be loved and give love.
Yeah, and because to be loved and to love as well. It's not just taking it in; it's having the ability to express proper love for someone else, like you two.
Yeah, feel warm after that. A nice warmth. It's true. And you appreciate. You know, that made me appreciate how much love I've got in my life. That it's made me feel warm. Yeah. And I feel like I've got a love to give as well.
But that's the thing about the truth. It's relentless. When you say something that's so simple and it's true, people just sit and you just think about it. There isn't, oh, yeah, but.
There's no buts to that.
There's no. It's just, yeah.
As you say that, my feeling is of pure, that's my wealth. Yeah, that's everything.
Of course,
so I completely agree with you. That is that. You know, I'm a rich man. For that.
When you're on a plane and the plane is going to crash, you're not looking at your bank statement. You're not.
No. Yeah, you're thinking about your children.
Yeah, and the people you love, and wanting to communicate that love to them. Let them know. If you can possibly do it, you want to communicate to them.
I do every day. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
I'm never enough straight away now. I want to get off of it. I'm going to ring him.
It was funny when I was a kid. We never used to say we love each other in the house.
Yeah.
Like, just wasn't a phrase that we'd use. It would be uncomfortable and a bit weird. And I was even thinking about this yesterday, thinking I'm going to tell my mum I love her, and I've still not been able to do it because it just wasn't something. It wasn't something that we did. It wasn't something we did. But with my children. You know, I tell them I love them every time I speak to them.
When I tell my son I love him, he goes, "I know you do."
Yeah. But what a magical thing that is. I say that to Sissy. She's 12. I'll say, I really love you, and she'll have that without taking the piss. It's like, I know, and thank God for that. Yeah. Like she knows, and it's so guileless that she'll say, I know, like. Of course, like it's not a thing. Of course, you love me. Yeah. But what a magical thing that is for your son to know that you love him, and like hand on heart. I don't know if you would say, "Do your parents love you? Did they love you?" Some of us might say yes. Some of us might say but in a way there'd have to be a sentence that followed it. It was in a fucked up way. It was in a weird way. They never said it, but I'm sure they meant it. They showed it. Whereas Ray will just say. Of course. Yeah. That's a magical thing.
Steve, thank you very much, mate.
Thanks for coming on, Steve, and thanks for everything. It's a big thanks.
Stay out of trouble.